Salah Hashemi, Najaf is the seat of the Shia religious authority in Iraq. What are your thoughts on the attack on the consulate and its significance? Are the demonstrators' concerns legitimate?
First of all, thank you very much for having me, and I would like to offer my sincere condolences to to those who have been martyred by the Iraqi uprising and to their families. Now, in terms of the significance of the attack in Najaf, it is highly significant because Najaf, as probably known to your viewers, is the holiest shrine in Shia Islam, and therefore the attack on it signifies plenty. I think the message from somebody within, or a group of people from within the demonstrators, might have been sent to the Iranians that you are no longer welcome because lots of pilgrims come to the city in order to perform religious duties. Now, I think we need to be very, very careful in analyzing the situation. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the demonstrators are the ones who have attacked the embassy, the consulate, sorry. Because, first of all, there are always a few bad apples within a huge group of people like the demonstrators. There may be some here. Number two, we have also the possibility of a self-inflicted wound or false flag attack. Clearly, the Iranians are looking to interfere in Iraq, this time openly and with open force. This could provide them with the pretext. Otherwise, you tell me, thankfully, by the way, the Iranian embassy was empty when it was attacked. And the Iraqi security forces would have informed the Iranians to evacuate the embassy or the consulate prior to the attack. Now, if that is the case, I think the Iraqi security forces are more than capable of defending this consulate against demonstrators who are largely unarmed, with the exception of a few petrol bottles. Now, this raises a number of questions. If that is the case, was this orchestrated? I do not know because I don't have the answers because the attack has been very recent and we don't have much information about it. Just going back on the point that you made with your guest in London, I think the roots of Iranian involvement goes back very early on since the invasion of Iraq, since 2003, when the Badr forces who were openly funded, allied and trained by the Iranians entered Iraq and imposed themselves on the security forces with the degree that they became part of those security forces. They are accused of human rights breaches since early from the invasion. So I don't think it's a myth. And also to add to that, the most recent revelations by Intercept and the New York Times, the papers that were revealed, documenting step by step almost the individuals with whom the Iranians have had contact, and of course the revelations that the entire government is corrupt and thoroughly abusing human rights. To have somebody like the Iranians backing them up, I think will invoke some anger among the demonstrators. That is not to say that we condone the attack on the consulate. It is highly deplorable. But I would also say this is a hallmark of Iranian practice. Let us not forget that the Iranian Revolution was blessed with an attack on the American embassy back early on in 1979. I think hostages were held for nearly 2 years. A year and a bit. So therefore, I don't think this is an Iraqi hallmark. It seems to be that there is some outside interference, and now we have reinforcement coming in from Baghdad, armed reinforcement, to crush the demonstrators who have always maintained that they're going to be peaceful.
Okay, Salah Hashemi, to what extent are Iran and the US using Iraq right now as a pawn in their regional strategies?
Well, unfortunately, of course, Iraq became an open playing field since the invasion of 2003. It is an insult to anyone's intelligence to suggest that Iranians or the Iranian government, I'm not really talking about the Iranian people, we have all sympathy towards the Iranian people who have risen against their government. I am directly talking about the Iranian government here. Since the American invasion, it opened up a huge, big gap in Iraqi politics. Since, of course, the dismantling of Iraqi infrastructure and the entire state, including the army and the security forces, that opened the door for Iranian-trained proxies who entered the country and seized the political scene. Since then, they have been building up, to their credit, quite successfully, a political infrastructure in order to control the country and to make it a crony for the neighboring Iran. And they have been, as I said, successful. Now, what has happened is that the Americans almost somewhat lost control on the ground, because the Iranians have been preparing this for years. And I will give you an example, because what happened in the uprising against Saddam Hussein in 1991, there are credible reports which suggest that Iranian-backed forces did cross the border to support the revolutionaries at the time. But of course, they were crushed by the Iraqi army, who was reasonably powerful during that period. Now, as I said, the Americans have conceded power on the ground to Iranian influence, because what has happened is that those political parties who were supported and trained and also directed by the Iranian government seized on the open corruption in Iraq, and they have built up a mountain of wealth that facilitated for them the creation nowadays of armed militias who are backing them up. And this is exactly the root causes of the problem. This is what the demonstrators are complaining about. People are talking about this mysterious third party. I do not think that this third party is no longer mysterious. They are either militias backed by foreign powers who are supporting this corrupt government because they share that common interest in that this government must stay, so that the corruption will flow the funds onto them, and they are not willing under any circumstances to relinquish power.